Wow, okay. Hey, hello everybody, this is Academy of Tone number 42. Level 42. As usual, if we go really live, we do have some technical issues at the beginning. So sorry for being late. The other thing today is we have heavy snow in Germany, and Mick Woll, the guest who was planned for this 42 episode, lives on a hill and it's kind of too risky. So we postponed the whole thing for next week. So Mick Woll will be on the number 43.
Yep, exactly.
So, and on short notice, calling up Rich is like, hey, we've got some other topics we recently talked about. What about here our transparent overdrive thing?
Yeah, exactly, which is always a good topic to talk about, I think, because transparent overdrives are a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about those and you borrowed some pedals of mine like half a year ago. And what do you understand by transparent overdrive? What is your definition, or how you categorize this kind of overdrive versus other types of overdrive?
Yeah, okay. So we know that there are certain kinds of overdrive that do a definitive thing to your signal.
Right.
So a tube screamer, for example, is very famous.
Yeah.
For certain things that it does to your signal. Different kinds of pedal do different kinds of things. And a transparent overdrive, the idea behind that, as far as I understand it, from internet forums, from pedal builders, etc., is that a transparent overdrive will take what you put into it, your basic guitar sound, your basic amp tone, and it will give you more of that.
Yeah.
It won't affect your EQ curve in too much of a radical way. It'll just turn you up to 11.
Yeah.
And that's why we say transparent, and that's why pedals like the Greer Lightspeed, which I've got here, I don't know which camera I'm looking into, would say organic.
Yeah.
We're talking about that kind of thing. I think the godfather of the current crop of transparent overdrives is the Paul Cochrane Timmy, which we've got here. Perhaps you guys can put in the comments what you would like us to try, because we have a bunch of transparent drives here. Tell us what you want to hear, and if we've got it, we will play it.
We'll play it. Yeah, I mean, we have even more than on the table right now. I like transparent overdrives as well. So for me, the term transparent overdrive is a musical term. It's coming from the idea of describing it as a overdrive that shows the guitar, transparency of the guitar notes, like the strings, and it's of course not high gain. It's like a transparent sound of the guitar, which is maybe richer, hotter, bigger, and whatever. And now comes the problem. If we actually look at the technical side of the whole thing, it does change the EQ curve a lot. And to prove that, I have prepared a little experiment. We can get an EQ, and we get my guitar into the looper kit here, and we can get, where's the output? The output is too many cables. This is the out. No, this is the out, and the out goes here. And, here's the out. Okay, so fantastic. What I want to do. Okay, this is using everything. It's a little bit of reverb and a little bit of delay. Let's leave it like that. But I go to the clean channel.
So this is just the amp so far, just the amp one?
That's just the amp.
Yep.
And let me switch off the boost. Really clean. So, nothing special. Let's make it maybe a little bit brighter so we can hear more of the nuances. I have an idea. Let me go to another cabinet, Fenderish. Fender style, so because that one. It's the 210. I think you dialed in the same. That's the cabinet of the day. This is a deluxe cabinet, deluxe reverb cabinet. Let's check what we've got here. So this is clean, amp, clean. You know what? Just to make sure I have the shortest signal path, the guitar goes straight into the looper kit, which is unplugging this cable and go in here.
So this is going to be the
Yeah. So
okay.
And now let's switch to the clean. Using the remote now. The remote works. Next point is let's activate loop number 1, which is the EQ.
Yep.
Press and hold the button here, and then it's now our equalizer. So it's here in middle position should be kind of neutral. So, and what happens when you increase just the level, we get some break up from the amp, because this doesn't break up, okay? There's a lot of low end going on.
Yep.
So this low end is something you might not like because it kind of covers the tone. It kind of is too much. It's getting in the way of the transparency. So this is what we are doing is simply roll off some bass. the bass now is kind of tight. And the other thing is, as we get more gain, it's getting harsh. So we get rid of highs. Let me get rid of the delay for a second so we are more puristic here. Okay, so when you see the starting point and you look at the curve now, you can see this curve is a no bass and less treble curve. So if you learn this, maybe can the camera show this? Oh, this was the end of the backing track. So here is no bass, the mids I left in the original position, and then less treble. So what I'm saying here is the moment you touch the tone and give it something extra, you have to compensate it in a way. No amp is that ideal that it can handle anything. So some amps have a lot of low cut already, so they are not so sensitive to it. But if you have a natural clean tone and you boost it in a way or you change it in a way, there's always the element of EQing that kind of keeps the whole thing together. Then there's another aspect, which is compression. When I hit the amp harder, like with the... Maybe you don't hear that much, but it's like the amp starts to saturate, and the saturation is also kind of a little clipping, and that's kind of compressing. So when I go... That's the natural guitar sustain, and this is... There's a little bit more level behind it. So now we can have pedals that have more compression elements, then we have pedals that have more level elements, and the third element is kind of clipping, like a pre-clip. So if the amp is dead clean, totally clean, a nice little breakup is always something we're looking for. And here the amp 1 can do it, as you can see. We are now on the clean channel boosting with this EQ pedal. So the EQ pedal does not give us any overdrive, but increasing the input level already is overdriven.
Yeah.
So now, since we all know that there is a certain curve to make the guitar transparent and speak, we can hear this in every pedal.
Yeah.
So just for fun, I bring the level back up on a flat EQ curve. So if somebody says, oh, this booster is totally neutral, it will sound like that. So get rid of the bass and a little here, and we have, like the second harmonics of the tone is audible, and that sounds always more pleasant than just the root or what is the frequency, like this is 63 hertz on the low E string, blah blah blah, like on the bass, or 440 with the A string. If you reduce the bass, you get kind of rid of this energy that loads the circuitry too much, and you get more the first overtone, and that speaks. Okay, that's the whole trick about this kind of EQing. And by the way, that's the whole game of the metal guys as well, because all the guys want the same. If you are a blues player or if you are a metal player, you want a sound that is like defined by a nice attack. That's your feel, how if it's slow, if it's fast, if it's touchy. And this doesn't matter if it's a clean tone or if it's a metal tone. And the transparent guys, they want to have this kind of element filled with clean elements and a nice breakup and the nice overtones. And the metal guys, they want that element filled with tons of overdrive. Mm-hmm. But from what it is, it's like a brick to build a wall of sound. And this brick in the clean world is transparent overdrive, and in the metal world is kind of tight chuck. And that's the whole thing. Yeah. And you can have too much high end in the metal world, and you can have too much treble in the blues world as well. So in the end, these kind of recipes are always the same in guitar, because it's an instrument and you have to feel the notes that you're playing. And so you have to kind of sculpture the notes with the tools, with the pedals, and of course with your playing. Mm-hmm. And if the pedals put it to some other place, you never get anywhere.
Yep.
Okay. So
and of course, one other thing to say is that different amps will have a different EQ and sound naturally. Mm-hmm. So this pedal in this position will sound a lot different on a different style amp. And of course, all these pedals will sound very different when put into different styles of amps too. So that's another factor on top.
Yeah, and this is why there are so many holy grail pedals, because the best combination of one pedal is maybe a killer combination of the pedal with the Fender amp, for instance. And the same pedal in front of a Marshall is like horrible.
Yeah.
Because it's like if you have the peaks at the same places, it's getting too much. But it's super nice if you have a pedal that boosts a different frequency, connects with the amp, and so it gets a really broad range. And this is where all the magic lies. And this also depends on your guitar. I mean, what is a Les Paul or a Strat delivering as a frequency spectrum? And this is kind of a Strat is always kind of more, I would say, mid-scooped in a way compared to a Les Paul. Yep. And I mean, if you have tons of mids on the guitar and then you have a super honky pedal into a super honky amp, it's not my taste. But if you have like take a Fender amp, something similar that we have here, a mid boost, a mid hump is something nice, and this is why everybody raves about the tube screamer.
Yep.
And it is that mid hump. And you know what? Just for fun, let's plug the tube screamer in instead of the EQ.
Yep.
It's a quick one. So, and then we can hear that. Wait, that's me. Okay, first, that's straight bypass into the amp. And here the mid hump right away. Yep. Get rid of the overdrive. So, I mean, this is the typical 800 hertz, which kind of fills this kind of scooped mid things from the amp, and this is why people love it. Okay. Now, if I crank the boost, the overdrive. Now we have an overdrive control here. Okay, that's the typical tube screamer
Exactly,
honk.
yeah. So here's a question that's coming in already. In what situation would you use something like a tube screamer? And in what situation would you personally, Thomas Blue, turn to something more transparent like a Timmy?
Yeah, me personally, I like the tube screamer best actually with Marshall amps to make my Strat sounding Les Paul style. I show you. I just go for, I'll switch here to the vintage. Okay, first bypass. This is like, let's go back for my Marshall cabinet. So, which is, this is like my vintage channel on the amp 1 with my Marshall kind of cabinet. So, and if I want the extra sweetness, that's the tube screamer. Is it on? I can't see from here. So that's why, or that's what I love about the tube screamer.
Yeah.
Let's go back for the Fender territory to the clean channel. Kind of okay-ish, but for me personally, it's already too much. I personally think the mids, I need a very, very scooped Fender amp. If I reduce the volume on the amp 1 here, I get... Let me get rid of some mids here. So that's something which is okay. But I show you now, also, he was asking about the Timmy.
It was a specific question about the Timmy, yeah.
Okay, you know what? Swap it for the Timmy.
Yeah.
We have more overdrives that will come on the other loops in a minute, but...
Oh, there goes the power supply.
Power supply.
No
We need it.
Yeah.
There we go. Oops. There we go with the power supply.
Yeah, this is the beauty of live.
We need help.
Streaming.
Yeah.
We have the magic hand from underneath.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
There's always a magic cameraman somewhere in the corner.
Okay,
we got power. Okay, nice. So we are no sound, which is me. Okay, back to normal, which means I put everything in middle position. Amp 1, just so you can kind of do the same at home. 5, 5, 5, and this is 8 here. And let me see, and the bright settings. So let's bring in the Timmy. Compared to the tube screamer, it's way more open. It sounds more natural.
Yep.
And this is what I meant about the honk of the tube screamer. The tube screamer honk is too intense to my personal taste, you know. For me, transparent overdrive means it should sound like an amp. And I mean, of course, it is using this extra EQing, but it kind of keeps, well, the whole thing in the, it still sounds like an amp if the overdrive would come from the amp.
Yeah.
And then I would say this is like transparent because it sounds natural.
But does it for you? Does it retain the character of the amp 1, or do you hear the sound of a Timmy as well? Because that's what I'm thinking about when I think of transparency. It's like you turn on the Timmy and you don't hear it. The Timmy doesn't have a tone as such, but my amp is now kicking up another notch than it was before.
Exactly. This is what you want, and this all depends on your combination, on your setup. You know, so the setup here is now. Is this the same cabinet? No, I want this one. I use the 210, which has a bigger notch, so it's more, you know, so it's a bit more delicate. Yeah, and if you don't know what I'm playing right now, I mean, if we would make a guess, you would say, oh, this is a Fender, blah, 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 whatever, you know, but... So there's no, you know, nobody can tell there's a Timmy involved or an amp 1. It sounds just like a great amp. Yeah, so this is the thing. And the Timmy has a few modes here just to show people. It's like different clipping.
Yep.
This is asymmetrical clipping, which gives you... Do we have more gain somewhere? Where's the gain?
Gain that.
Okay, I cranked the gain so you hear it. This is symmetrical, which is more natural. This is like more tweet, kaput.
Okay. Yeah, that's like broken speaker or something like that. Yeah,
but it has a beauty. If you don't use too much of it, I just go back for the middle position. No, that's, and the broken speaker one is like. Anyway, so this was too much gain.
Yep. I think the Timmy is almost famous for being a pedal that you don't want to use too much gain with.
Yeah.
So if you're on a clean channel, you would use it to boost that. If you're on a dirty channel on the amp again, you would use it to give it an extra bit of hair.
Absolutely.
But you would not use the Timmy as a drive for a clean channel.
Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to show, you know, how drastic or what the switch is actually doing.
Yeah, sure.
Because if we are not going into this territory, only the peaks of the attacks will be clipped either this way or the symmetrical or the asymmetrical way.
Yeah.
And this is where they switch the diodes.
Just for those watching on the camera up there, looking at the settings, the treble looks like it's all the way off, but the EQ controls on this version of the Timmy and all the older ones are kind of back to front. So actually we've got the treble all the way up and we've got the bass in about the central position. You know, the filter to front.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, nice one. Just for fun, on loop number 3, I have the steel string 1, 2, 3. So I go for effects loop, wing, and put on 3. Okay, this is the steel string, what is it called? The slide return version, SRV. There's a silver one, which is a bit brighter. This one is a little bit darker.
And what are they supposed to be emulating or doing? Are they
Dumbles.
Okay.
This is different dumble amp. So this is really the pedal now.
Yeah.
Driving hard. The way I would use that would be slightly different. I think I bought that pedal myself because I was used of the M1, which also is kind of a transparent overdrive. So this is like the standard clean tone. And this is with the internal boost. Now I use the boost and have this at a nice cleanish. I can use less of that, and this utilize.
Yeah.
You know, I can go way down now. So that was a nice tone. Like a driven Fender style amp.
Yeah.
Let's compare that to the Timmy. It's a bit too bright, right?
Yeah. Let's wind the treble down maybe a bit.
Yeah. Even lower. Yeah, nice. Kind of nice, but nice.
Yeah, but there's a sort of a harshness in the top end which is not there in the steel string.
Yeah. And this version sounds a bit bigger. Hey, we are talking nuances now, but I guess this is what it's all about. if we have this kind of boutique-y sound in our heads, which we try to achieve by manipulating the sound with tiny bits and pieces here, this is what we are actually looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, if this or this is better, and this is so sensitive now to your setting. And as we can see, they're both great, but it depends on the what you are combining with, the combination of all the components. Just for fun, give me the Les Paul, and we see if we have any similar reaction, or if it's completely not working. You see the whole guitar. To me, again, there's a slightly aliveness with the steel string, the vertex. But hey, that's probably my taste and my touch. Somebody else, different flavor. But did you notice we had to change the amp dramatically because I had to reduce. I probably was at 6 and now I'm at 4, you know? Hey, just for fun, on the last loop I do have a cheapo, which is the Dan Electro Cool Cat.
Controversial pedal.
Is it?
Yeah. You didn't know?
No.
So the Cool Cat Overdrive was regarded as being a clone of the Timmy pedal. And they made 2 versions of it. You've got the version 2, but the version 1, I think they stopped production of it fairly fast because Paul Cochrane, who made the Timmy, got wind of it and they realized, they're basically cloning this circuit. A couple of tiny little changes perhaps and selling it for what, $50 or something?
It's super cheap.
And these new in America are like $130 and to get one in Europe you have to pay silly money.
Yeah,
really.
okay.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. Let's try and...
Yeah, okay, this is like... Okay, we have loop 1 and 4 on, which means this and that.
Okay.
Okay, so... Okay, well, they have the control on the other side. You know what? I have the Strat back, just because that's the thing here. Let's start from... I start with gain, reduce gain. Sounds pretty good, like it is, less gain. Yeah, I bought a right pedal. I bought cheap. The thing about this pedal, what I liked about it, it has a bass and treble EQ, which is this double control here. And the other one is drive and master. And of course it was cheap and I liked it, so I bought it. I didn't know any of the background stories, you know. It was just something that I discovered, like, hey man, this sounds good. What, 50 quid only, whatever, boom, bought it. One was mine. And so guys, as you can see, there are some cheap options. Yeah, and you know, back to the very beginning, I can clearly hear this kind of mid-hump here, but it's kind of hidden nicely somehow. So it's like sounds totally credible Fender amp to me.
So would you call that a transparent overdrive then?
Yeah.
Even though there's a mid-hump?
Yeah, that's the point. Knowing that there's a lot of manipulation of frequencies going on, of saturation, I still would call it transparent overdrive, because the term transparent to me means tone is transparent.
Yeah.
Not the technology is doing different EQings, different clippings, blah, 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 affecting dynamics and all that stuff. But as a musician, this is transparent, because the notes that I... So the lesson that you can learn is probably if you have an amp 1 and you invest another 50 quid extra, you can turn your amp 1 into another great tone, which is probably in there or probably not. And it's those slightly different frequencies and compression elements that give it a different character.
Well, here's a really interesting question that came in from Lex, actually. He says, is it possible to simulate or to create the tones of pedals like this by using an EQ pedal and a compressor in front of an amplifier? I think we'll maybe come to that later, because you can do a lot of tone shaping with an EQ.
Let's put it that way. I can answer the question now.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, you can. Because in the end, it is EQ, clipping, and compression. So if the clipping comes from the amp, you can do it without an extra clipping.
Yeah.
Of course, if you have gain staging or what is it? Stacked gains. Stacked gain. What's
gain stacking?
Gain stacking. Yeah, exactly. If you have that, the thing is, sometimes if one stage clips and another stage like the amp input or power amp clips, there's some magic happening. You know, this is how you get these creamy lead tones. And if the stacking works perfectly, there's a beauty about it. On the other hand, there's also a beauty about having a raw clipping thing that gives you more compression. And so it's always a trade-off, and you can play around with all these three elements. But this is the cooking recipe for any guitar tone. It's EQ, compression, and clipping. And how many stages? For instance, our dear friend Dave Friedman, I think in this high-gain overdrive pedal, he uses 4 or 5 different clipping stages stacked. And this is getting his famous high-gain lead tones.
Yeah.
I mean, for the transparent sounds, you will probably be fine with like 1 or 2 stages. But that's a nice example of somebody that understands the recipe, how to design proper amps that are not muddy and that are nice and even transparent in high gain. I mean, this is... Shall I talk about this? In the past with Hughes and Kettner, sometimes
here we go.
People complained a little bit about being not so tight and not so. And this recipe is about this kind of knowledge. And I was always a big fighter for different tube stages, extra tube stages to get that. And anyway, I'm happy that I can go all the way with BluGuitar now. And if for you guys, if you have understood the recipe of combining pedals with a great amp, it even works with different amps and also the Hughes and Kettner amps. Okay, wow. Sorry guys. Let me show you a different pedal here.
We should hear the Chula. That's the 4th one which you've got in the loop there. And we haven't used it yet. And I think it's a bit different from the others.
Yeah. So we are in... okay, I have to go to loop number 2. Effect loop, so 2. What is the Chula? The Chula has 2 things here. It has a double function, which is so this is boost number 1. And this is not active only when the first one is active. This switch becomes active. So it's like a boost and another one on top of that.
Okay.
So, and the second one can be preset. So I switch on the first one. Nothing happens here.
Yeah.
And then when this comes in, okay, we are not into this high gain. That's the thing why I bought the tuner, because it cleans up so nicely. I bought this pedal mainly because I use it for overdrive tones as a boost. But it's still okay when it's like a...
Can you use side and not use... Or do you have to use this side in order to use this side?
Yeah, exactly. This is... It's a... Try.
So that does nothing?
No, it only works if this one is engaged.
An extension of this side, okay.
You know, some people like this, like the always on side, like, okay, this is bypass, which this is like on side. This will be your solo boost. Maybe I get... You can tell it's a bit more Marshall-esque. And that's why I kind of bought it. So let's get rid of the Marshall-esque side and put in some other pedal in here.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting some people asking about the Greer Lightspeed. It's always a good one to try. So should we take the Chula out?
But we need a power.
Yeah. Do we have another power supply down there?
Then get the Timmy one. So I hold this because we don't want it.
So Timmy out, Lightspeed in now.
Yeah. Ooh.
It's fine.
So I bought this pedal too. Why? Because it has a, how to describe it? This is like the pedal has a almost neutral setting. So it's like a starting point from like, okay, this is dead. Why is it dead? Oh, wait a minute, no? Oh.
So how would you set it then?
I would... So there's not much difference now.
No.
Somewhere there's a point where it's like unity gain and unity tone in a way. And just imagine you have a nice tone. Just let's say this would be a nice tone. So, and if I would like to make this a little hot, in a way, can try two things. One is to increase the volume. This would drive my amp now to neutral. And if I use the internal drive, this kind of drive is a lot milder than saturating the amp 1. And this sometimes comes handy if you want that fusion style tones, you know, like... It's a lot milder. Let's go back for driving the amp hotter. So now I get, you know, the amp 1 driven hard versus the pedal. Of course, I can now make a blend of both, you know, have some sweetness from the Lightspeed. I wouldn't go that much. This is a low gain thing, you know? Yeah, so it's another nice option how to tweak or shape your tone.
Yeah, and this is a pedal that a lot of people seem to use as like an always-on pedal as well. So it'll be on 100% of the time.
See, if you would compare this to like a tube screamer, the tube screamer kind of changes the tone dramatically.
Yeah.
In a way that it would be too much. And this always on means like you are that close to your amp anyway. And then from that starting point, you can have a little extra spice in whatever direction and kind of get a bit more gain just by increasing the level from the amp, or if the amp kind of breaks up a bit odd, use this kind of thing. And then there's a frequency control, which also kind of, this makes it this is treble down, but feels great. I mean, this is the thing, like this kind of lifts up the whole signal, compresses the whole thing, and it sounds simply richer. Okay, this is a little bit too dark for me. Nice one.
Let's hear the differences between this and the Cool Cat.
Sure.
So effectively Lightspeed versus Timmy, because that is...
A little bit too hot.
Yeah.
I decrease the where's the gain? This is the gain. Less gain. Let me see. Okay. Well, it's all in the same direction.
Yeah, exactly. Same ballpark for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, this is maybe has a little bit more on the low side. How it's set up now. Here I have a bass control here too. I'm not saying this is better or this is better. I like them both, yeah. That's why I bought them both in the end. And sometimes I didn't have the double check. When I bought this pedal, I didn't have this with me. So I was impressed about the same thing again, which tells me about my taste. If I buy 10 pedals that do exactly the same, it tells me I got a taste. This guy knows what he wants, at least. Of course, I spent a lot of money on this one. Tons of money on this one versus this one. How much is the Lightspeed?
I think in Europe these are about 230 euros, which is it's not a small amount of money, is it? I think in America about $199 for one of these. These are made in the USA, of course.
Okay.
These ones are made elsewhere.
Elsewhere, sure.
Somewhere in the world.
Yeah, who cares? They sound brilliant.
Yeah, and listening to the two in an A-B setting, you really don't hear $150 of difference, do you?
No. But I mean, what is $150 if you have a great tone? And this is why this is the excuse for every guitar player to buy pedals,
Yeah.
I mean, your wife buys a pair of new shoes every month. We have to buy a pedal every month. I mean, and 200 euros, dollars, or whatever, it's a nice amount of money to spend to do yourself a favor. And this is why we all want these different colors in tone and housings. And your wife wants different colors in tone and shoes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, this is how it is. Lightspeed versus Cool Cat. Yeah. A pedal like this gives me a bigger musical dynamic range. I mean, if we analyze the situation of what is a technical dynamic range and a musical dynamic range, it's two different worlds. If you talk to a technician like, I have more dynamic now, and they said, no, you have less because you are clipping already. There is no dynamic.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the musician, if the different tones are within the reach that you can plug them and that you can create the different tones and you express yourself in a dynamic way, and that makes more differences. If you are in that sweet spot, you feel like it's more dynamic. But technically speaking, you're just in the curve on some edge where something happens. But the real dynamic is the whole range. And this is a big of confusion if you talk to engineers that have no clue about guitar players, because the sheer technological description of things is wrong. Musicians use tons of wrong terms. I mean, it starts with this is a tremolo. No,
yeah.
A tremolo is a volume modulation, and this is a vibrato because it changes the pitch. So the guy who calls this a tremolo was a big mistake, but everybody calls this a tremolo today. So every musician on the planet calls this, this is a strat with a tremolo. Nice. Wrong. Totally wrong. And if you go somewhere, hey, but this has a great dynamic, and somebody measures the dynamics, that this bullshit. It has no dynamic. What do you mean? But this is why, sound design is a thing that either you have to do it yourself, because once you start to talk to other people, you have to find a common ground of understanding. And if you have a great technician that has no experience in that, you will never experience what you want. I mean, you work with a guy and he goes left when you want to go right. It's like, hey, I want more dynamics. And he goes, well, I give you more dynamics. And he said, now it sounds totally shit. You fucked it up. Man. So I've done this a lot with different technicians in the past. And anyway, that's the thing why we need to find people that understand us. And maybe we have to make a Wikipedia of musicians' terms one day and translate that into something that the outside world would understand. Would be a great thing.
Maybe that's another episode for the future.
Yeah. Sure.
Question before we move on to pedals. Tell us briefly again about your guitar picks.
Well, I use super, super hard guitar picks. This one is as hard and heavy as it gets. It doesn't bend anything. So I can, dynamic means with this pick, I can put so much energy into the strings that I could almost kill them. I don't want to do that, but can also hold them lightly. Yeah, this is why I like them. Yeah. Dynamic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More dynamics.
But this is real dynamic. I mean, this is like real energy that I can put onto the string. And then if the amp and the pedal kind of brings the range of output from the guitar in a spot where I can have the sweet spot of tonal changes, that's what I call, this is the dynamic spot of the amplifier.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next transparent pedals, which personally I'm not sure if they are transparent, but it's the Nobels ODR overdrive pedal, and you're quite familiar with the company Nobels, right? Because it's a German company.
It's a guy from Hamburg, Bernhard Kurzke, who is around for, probably I know him from 90s, 80s or whatever. They had a copy of the Rockman thing, and they did some weird stuff, and finally they became famous for the ODR-1. which is, I personally own this bigger brother, which is the OD5, ODR.
No, this is the ODR-S, the Special. And I think this one has a 3-band EQ. You've got a low, mid, and a high.
Yeah.
Whereas the ODR1 and the ODR Mini, which is this one, a newer version of the ODR1, just have a spectrum control, which controls the tones. Let's plug these ones in and see how we can get them to
let's
sound.
swap, maybe we're done with the Timmy and the Cool Cat, or the steel string, then we swap one here.
Yep, you take that one there, and I'll take out the Lightspeed.
I think this one has even a battery inside.
Perfect.
Because it works without the power cable. So let us.
And the Nobels, of course, were kind of a sleeper overdrive for quite a long time. Many people in kind of standard rock genres didn't really know them, but they were kind of a secret weapon for Nashville session players.
Yeah.
So if you go onto YouTube, you'll see people like Tim Pierce telling you how good this Nobels ODR-1 pedal is.
Yeah, and in the end, the funny thing is, it started as a... Here in Germany, it was just one of those pedals. I mean, when they came out, nobody knew they were kind of special in a way. They were just around, and being green means attract people in the tube screamer direction. Maybe I mean it's that old, and if you look at the Nobels pedals, they have been a bit. I would say more neutral. The hump is not as present as on a tube screamer.
Yeah.
And then the clipping is also slightly different. But let's check them out.
Yeah.
So we got more pedals. This one is now not active. I have to switch on the loop, which is loop number 3. Mm-hmm. Okay, now are all 4 loops active, so we can have a pedal in each one. So, in the middle position.
Everything on 12.
I have probably a little bit too much level. Let's go back with everything on 12 too.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start in whatever that is, middle position. So. So this one is hotter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. You have more bass. I guess this is the bass. Wait a minute. Give me more bass. Yes, your bass. Okay, we're getting closer.
Yeah.
But not the same. So here is the thing. The ODR Mini, which is kind of the ODR1, the classic. Gives you this kind of little British feel to it. Compared to what we heard from the steel string or the Cool Cat and the Timmy. This, for me, this was all kind of American Fender-esque by tone. So, and this gives you the drive that I didn't change the speaker. I'm still on the amp sounds open and Fender-esque.
Yep.
But the pedal gives you that flavor already. And here's the point why Tim Pierce likes it. I can tell you, you can express yourself with the dynamics again. Sounds like a cranked amp.
Yeah.
And this is what the Nashville guys love. You know, it sounds natural, but it sounds a bit more rocky. It's not really heavy rock. I mean, you know, Nashville, they have hats. And, you know, so this thing here, let's compare this now to the ODR-S. Kind of similar thing in that range. But for me, there's another thing that comes on here. This has way more gain if I need that. So if I have nothing with me and I want to go in, okay, I have to play a rock gig. So this is my, here I can be myself, my Thomas Blue thing, and I go back and I'm, you know, in. My amp a bit harder. You know, so what the ODR-1 or the Mini does is the amp thing in the pedal. This does the amp thing in the pedal plus the drive thing in the pedal. And to me, this is kind of if you have a shitty amp, whatever brand, you can make the thing work. I can make music with that pedal.
Yeah.
It's a survivor pedal. And the other thing, which I also like about it, this works fine with drive sounds as well. I need different settings. Okay, let's get a little bit more towards middle position. So I go on my vintage. Assume this would be kind of a, you know, Marshall-esque vintage Marshall style amp. Okay, and then so this pedal is a good example for gain stacking. I used quite some gain from this one into more gain from this one.
Yep.
And it became creamy. So that's another of these recipes that I found. Okay, anyway, that's the Nobels thing. They give you something, and I think they're great. I mean,
yeah, and they're very affordable as well, aren't they? Certainly a lot cheaper than the American-built ones here.
Yeah.
I think this mini one you can get it for about 75
cool.
euros or something. So
Yeah.
again,
Well,
pretty cheap.
Probably built in China as well by now. They started in Germany, but this is how things go.
Yeah, for sure.
I have another thing here. This mini, the blues driver. Let me plug that in.
Yep, this is probably the smallest pedal I've ever seen.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce this brand name? Is it Hot Tone? Is it Hotone? Is it Hot One? How do you say it? I don't know. I'm going with Hot Tone.
Yeah, we go for Hot Tone.
Yeah.
Chinese, and this is a Blues Breaker, Marshall Blues Breaker copy. And this is we need the power now.
I'm going to flick this one in at the same time. This is the Wampler
Okay.
Pantheon, which is also a Blues Breaker, King of Tone,
So
inspired jobby.
let me go back for the. Okay. Well.
Me, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. We need the bypass as well, or I have to switch off the loop. I can get you rid. So. So that's my amp on clean. Mid-hump.
Yep.
Drive, blah, blah, blah. So there's a FET switch, which will change the mid-hump to a different frequency. So this is the mid for the Fender style. You know, and this is more the Marshall. Sounds cool. I can use more drive. But Fender territory.
Yeah.
In the end, I would say this is like instant Fender. When you can come back from the Nobels is like British, in between Marshall and Vox, like GTM 45s or early classic British stuff, and this is instant American. Let's hear less gain. That's the trouble. Tone. Yeah, sounds nice. Okay, now I have to the loop 1 again for you. So now you are back in the game.
No gain setting. This is the Wampler Pantheon, which is again based on a blues breaker circuit. It has 3 different gain stages.
I'm scared already.
And 3 different overdrive voices, which again is, I guess, diode clipping.
Yeah.
So many knobs and levers to twiddle, but lots of cool.
Oh, now it has a lot of rumble bass.
Yeah,
okay.
a lot of low end.
Maybe one of those switches does help. What about the bass control? Or
Very subtle.
Very subtle. One is a little bit milder and the other one is like, a bit more aggressive.
Referred to as a transparent drive, or is that something which is coloring the tone more for you?
At this moment, it colors too much, but let me have a bit of presence. Let me start in a more mid position. I guess that Mr. Wampler, Brian Wampler, has something in his mind that can be kind of neutral as well.
He says pedal is that you shouldn't use the presence control unless you have a really dark amp.
Ah, okay. So
he recommends start with it all the way down and only turn it up
when it's needed. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I hear some scoop mids from the American. Okay, that's interesting. What is the?
That's the heavy drive in the middle.
So the switch up is already mid-hump. Yeah, okay. Let me try a bit more gain. I'm a bit offensive here. If something doesn't sound good, I give it more volume. I have the amp, my amp saturating, because I know there's some beauty coming from it when it's driven hard.
Yeah.
You know, this is why I increase the volume now, because with the gain coming from this pedal, it's not my, at this point, maybe I don't get it, but here, so when I listen to the kind of drive that comes, that is the more, how I would say, direct tone. I mean, so, and then it's frequency tweaking. So I would use a bit more drive to kind of have my amp saturating first, and then just have that on top clipping. And that makes then sense. But to be honest, I think this little fellow here sounds very similar.
Yep.
And maybe even better when I drive this hard. That's a pedal, for my taste, it compresses too much. But this is me being the nerd about, I like the compression in certain moments, and it's hard to describe, but this, I'm not saying Wampler makes bad pedals, because I bought this Plexi drive, and this has a very nice dynamic. Let's Wampler this one.
Yeah, we'll Wampler that out.
Yeah.
I'm cautious of the fact that we're pushing ourselves for time a bit, and your neighbours are going to start getting angry soon.
Are we?
We're close to 10. Yeah.
Ah.
Having so much fun swapping pedals out, that's the thing.
Okay,
So,
I mean, we could go on forever.
Yeah, exactly, and I think we're probably going to have to leave the gain stacking section for another
episode,
which is no bad thing.
No.
Okay, so this is the Wampler Plexi drive.
Yeah. Okay. So this is my private pedal for my board, and I use it. So this is kind of natural bass, tons of bass. If I want to use that in a low gain setting, all the bass. The way it blooms is nice. And as we learned, when I have more gain, I use less bass. I use the switch on this position.
So this one is a lot more open than the Pantheon.
To me.
Yeah.
And I personally use this not in a clean context, or sometimes I do, but it's more, it's a pedal that I use for both sounds, for clean and vintage channel. Fender and Marshall style. Anyway,
that's the thing. It's at this point.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And of course, it needs to match my settings.
Yeah.
You know, my system was complete the way it was, and then I thought, maybe I need a little bit of that, and this pedal fitted in my whole setup.
Yeah.
So that was the deal about why I bought that pedal.
Yeah. Quickly, we got a question about the OCD, the full tone OCD. What do you think about that pedal? Any familiarity with it?
Yeah, I know. It's a killer pedal. Unfortunately, I had one day, and sometimes things disappear.
Yeah.
And sometimes I lend stuff to people, and then I lose track, and I never know. Yeah, cool pedal.
Yeah, but that's more of a kind of a drive.
It's more
a
drive,
transparent kind of boost, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's also a super nice pedal. It's spongy. It has an amp feel to it. It's not like a fuzz face.
Yeah. Can you read that question there in the middle and tell me if you'd like to answer that question on the live stream? We get the questions down on the screen below there, and I just want to run this one by the boss first, just in case.
Okay, that's a tough one. There's a guy that's called himself Rock Guitar Vibes. H&K, which is Houston Kettner, released cheap-looking clones of the Mercury and Iridium based on the Black Spirit tech. However, it looks like they sound that good. What do you think about releasing such similar products? Well, what can I say? On the one hand, it says I'm doing something right here, because everybody that copies me is a proof that I've done something right. Secondly, I think the way the Amp1 is designed, it is a different animal by power, by features, by sound design, by options and everything. And I had this idea in my head for ages, and finally H&K was doing the same thing, and why should they? I think it if I do my thing, they can do their thing. And I always hated to be compared in a way. I mean, we do compare pedals here now, but I have a past with H&K, and I don't like to. Actually, I would love that they would do something different and do their own thing. Now they do my thing. And of course, I was there 27 years, so I left a lot of my DNA in that company. So that's my personal feeling. Hey guys, if you like any product, and I don't care if it's a company I work for, or if you like a product, and I'm happy for you, because in the end there's a player, there's an instrument, there's an amplifier, and this is all that matters. I make my offer, they do their offer. But I'm always more impressed of companies that bring stuff to the next level. We can talk about the Quad Cortex, for instance, and they're after the Kemper profiling or capturing thing, which is a different thing. They are amp modelers. We are amp makers in that way. But I think there's something going on in that kind of direction. And BluGuitar is working on the Amp X project, which is different from what they are doing. And therefore, I like this kind of competition, because they do a pure digital thing and try to raise the bar on that technology and what's possible. And BluGuitar is doing something fully analog with digital technology, and the products will be different, and they will appeal. Some people might think, oh, they're both programmable. No, they are based on totally different technology, and in the end, you will have a choice between two things that actually are different, and that's great. And if somebody does an Amp1 clone copy at a different price point, I'm not impressed.
No, well, I can understand that, and I think everyone watching can also understand that. And I think it's, like you say, at the moment, there are other products like the Neural DSP Quad Cortex, which are pushing boundaries of what is possible with, in their case, digital tech, and what you and us, the team here at BluGuitar, are doing with the Amp X is pushing the analog way.
Exactly.
And what that is doing is taking this musical instrument industry onto another level. And we're the guys who are going to take it forward and be the people of tomorrow. And you know, if there are other companies out there who just make copies of what came before, that's fine as well. It's a different thing, you know. There are those who lead and those who are 2 steps behind and follow, and that's the way. And I think ultimately the people who win are the guitar players, the people who are watching this.
Sure.
There's so much choice, so much amazing tech, and you can always find a product that's going to be killer for you. And I would round that back to the pedals thing here and say that today we tried about 10 or 12 pedals out. They all sound a little bit different. They're all really good, because it's hard to buy a bad product in 2020.
Yeah, I mean,
even the cheap Chinese products these days are great.
You have all the options. The biggest problem here for you guys is only to find what suits you.
Yeah.
And we make an offer, and I put my energy behind the products and try to get to the next level, to the next performance level, that there is more, that there is something new, that's something that has not existed before in the favor of the player. Because I'm still playing. I wish I could play more live gigs. You know, but they come. But my point is always, I'm so happy to talk to people with fresh ideas, and I don't know, or I don't mind what brand they are. You know, the guy that developed the aux Universal Audio, we have tons of respect, mutual respect, and it's like we spent half an hour discussing things, and you know, back in the days with Christoph Kemper, I talked a lot because he used that kind of input for his approach of profiling, and he brought the digital technology to another level, which is great. And now, you know, Neural DSP brings that technology to another level, and that's kind of a competition that brings the whole industry forward, as you said. And I'm excited about new stuff, and I'm excited about how musical things can be. And here's a little thing from the studio. You noticed that we were late today. Yesterday we switched the monitor section here for whatever convenience purposes with a digital mixing board, and the sound was gone. The magic was gone. I was not happy. What I'm listening here now is something different. I go straight out of the blue box into my studio monitor here without any digital board. No latency and no conversion, and it sounds killer, fresh, and I can hear all the nuances of the pedals, at least here. I don't know about you guys on the stream, because there is YouTube compression, there is, it needs to be digitalized and whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's already digitalized in our blue box. But the thing is, if there is a fresh quality in audio, and I don't care what technology you use, this is what I'm after. And last night, or when we did the change here, I noticed, wait a minute, a signal that is flat is not a signal that is flat and is good. I was shocked. I made this experience in my life, I don't know, 10 times, and again, I learned there's a magic about tone that I am driven by. And if it's not there, I'm not happy. And that's my approach. And I do care about features, but I first care about tone. And this is why I go all the way with the analog amps, like the Amp 1 and the Amp X, because I believe there's this tiny little bit of excitement that makes me smile and which makes me happy, and which makes this musical instrument, guitar, the most expressive instrument on the planet, at least for me. And I'm happy for everybody that plays something that is maybe not as good and is happy with it. I'm not happy with that. I'm too sensitive to this. Maybe I'm a total freak and nerd, but I grew up with magical sounds, with my old Fenders that we will hear next week, because I put them up in the video studio when Mick will come, or my Marshalls or whatever. But there is a magic in tone, which is the fascination of guitar, electric guitar to me. And this is what I'm about. And then after tone comes BluGuitar tone on innovation. Fresh, new formats. This is my creed. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, well, that's what we're all here for.
Yeah. Hey, I think, any more questions?
Yeah, there's a few more coming in all the time, but I think we'll push them over to next time. We'll answer them on social media because it's just getting too much for today. So I think at this point, that was a perfect speech to round off the day, to be honest. You said everything that we care about. And I think, a little bit of a teaser for next week. You're planning to get Mick Wall in, who was supposed to be here today.
Yeah, but we have how much freezing below -5, minus something.
Yeah.
And he lives on a hill in Wiesbaden, and this is the area where they had ice rain, and we safety first. So this is safety first. And next week we are promised to see some sun here in Germany finally, and so he'll be here next week, and I have to postpone all the other stuff that I planned.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's tons of things to come. I'm all excited about it, and
Yeah, so next week with Mick, it's going to be the mastery of clean tones.
Yep.
Using the Amp One as a pedal platform.
Yep.
And Mick is the band leader in one of the biggest top 40 sort of covers bands in Europe.
Urban
so you'll
club
be
band.
talking about that kind of stuff. So it's going to be very exciting. Make sure you come back for that. It's going to be episode number 43 in this weekly series. But yeah, that's it for today. So thanks
for watching.
Very much for watching. And please comment down and tell us which of the pedals you heard tonight was your favorite, because we'd like to know. And I think we should do more pedal shows in future, because this was fun.
And don't forget, I learned this from other YouTubers, subscribe and hit the bell button, whatever that means. I've done this with some other channels, but I hope you know what it means. So you get notified when we do something new. I'm not saying this very often, so I said it now.
Very good.
And this was a very spontaneous episode that we had to put together like last minute. But it was cool. I enjoyed it. I hope you did. See you next week.
See you later.
Cheers.